everyone. This is Christy O'Connor with Art Hustle. I am continuing our artist interview series with our current exhibiting artists for Thoughts and Prayers, Another Round of Vacant Stares, on view now, both on our website at arthustle.net and at Shishama Madawan in New Jersey through September 19th. Arts and Prayers, Another Round of Vacant Stares is an analysis of gun culture that features 29 artists, and we are partnered with several nonprofits, including Moms Demand Action, Unload, and Gays Against Guns, and of course Shama, who is hosting us in the space. And the exhibit is intended to explore and open up dialogue on gun violence and gun culture in America. Today we are with Sue Eldridge Ward. Hi Sue, how are you?
Hey Christy, I'm good. Good to be here.
Sue has two pieces in our exhibition, and she is a contemporary mixed media artist. She received a BFA degree in sociology from Occidental College and has participated in various group and solo shows in the tri-state area. Sue has lived in Baltimore, LA, and Brooklyn, and is currently residing in New Jersey with her husband and two teenage daughters. Sue started as a photographer, moved to ceramic sculpture, then expanded to fiber art, digital print media, and is now painting. Her work is humanist, political, feminist, and open to interpretation. So, like I said, Sue has two pieces in the exhibition. But before we get started, Sue, would you like to go further in on your current practice and the style of work that you have currently in the exhibition?
Yeah, so in terms of the work that I have in the exhibition, it really started as a response to the environmental crisis. And it eventually ended up more as a comment on our violent culture, but it started as a response to climate change and that. So I want to just back up a little bit and talk about my childhood and how I grew up and how that sort of ended up in the artwork.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, both my parents are pacifists, and they're also intellectuals. My mom was a painter and worked in a museum. My dad was a poet and was an English teacher. So we had a lot of books in the house, and so for fun, I would go down to the basement and I would just peruse all of the National Geographics and the encyclopedias, and I would look through the biology textbooks, and there was also this stack of Horizon magazines. And Horizon magazine is a publication from the 60s and 70s about art and history and culture. So in my current life, I was going to the library and they were giving away this stack of Horizon magazines, and it just brought back like this rush of nostalgia and intrigue and interest. So as I was looking through, here, I'll show you. This is what they look like. This one is from 1968. And as I was looking through this magazine, there was an article about the environment. It's called Man at War with Nature. 3 articles on the crisis in our environment. And I was particularly interested in the article about George Perkins Marsh, who was an environmental activist in the 1860s. And I just sort of wanted to bring in like how people were thinking about the environment in the 60s into how they were writing about it in the 1960s, and then currently as we're facing even more of a crisis now. So I wanted to take the words from the article and filter them through the media. And I had been working with media for a while and was sort of looking at how media influences culture, and then how culture influences media, and where does that line begin or end or start. So so what I did was I Googled the words and to try to find media sources, for example, forest, and I would come up with The Petrified Forest starring Bette Davis. So I would watch the movie and I would just take pictures of whatever I found interesting. I didn't want it to be, oh, I want to take pictures about nature or Bette Davis or any of that. I just wanted it to be very, very random and just see sort of what I came up with. And so eventually the collage work and the work in in the show is sort of what I came up with. And what I found was that almost all the media content either had very violent subject matter, or it was about love. So that's basically what the work is about. And yeah, so yeah.
That's really interesting that you said that, that a lot of the imagery was either violent or about love. And I think when it comes to our media and culture, sometimes those two are disturbingly intertwined. And so I could see how that would be a large bulk of your findings.
Right. Exactly. And I found that to be really interesting, because coming from a pacifist point of view, I don't see how they could be at all intertwined or similar in any way. I also used a lot of animal imagery in these paintings, because I wanted to sort of draw the contrast between humans and animals, and how as humans, we don't necessarily need to be violent to survive. We do not have the instinct to hunt down a zebra viciously and kill it for sustenance. We can choose a non-violent path, I believe.
Oh, absolutely. I think it could be incredibly easy for us to be nonviolent if we all work together and, as a whole. I feel like if our world leaders wanted to create a path where everyone had housing and food, it could easily be accomplished. But
exactly.
Yeah.
And I am coming from a point of privilege, right? So I do have enough food in my house. I do have all of the things that I need. I know that some people do not, and would feel like they would have to fight for them. But to your point, there would be a way where everybody could have what they need, basics.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So these two pieces that are in the exhibition, they're part of a larger body of work, correct?
Right. Yeah. So I hung some up here, the sort of larger ones here. Yeah.
And does this body of work, does it have a series title?
It's it's called Love and Violence in I'm sorry, I can't think of it right now. It's escaping me. It's been a while. But yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm going to share the screen and we're going to take a look at the pieces that you have on exhibit with us right now.
Okay.
So this is No Piece Could Be Found, and it's made with nail polish and inkjet print transfer on board. And you made this in 2017, correct?
Right. Mm-hmm. Right. So this is basically just shows these three guys in the front, and we're not really sure what they're aiming at. They're just sort of there. And in the background are these two horses just happily frolicking. And I think that the message in this is that, the victims are similar to the horses of gun violence, that often you don't see it coming, and it's totally unexplainable. There's no reason for it.
And what I find most interesting about this piece is, and the other piece as well that's in this exhibition, is the very graphic nature of the piece. It almost reads as an advertisement.
Yeah, so I really wanted to show sort of the vibrancy of it, just to sort of like say, look, I'm here, this is what's happening, and in contrast to the sort of black and white figures. Yeah, I did want it to be very, very graphic and very clear, I think.
Is there any significance with the chain link fence in the back?
I mean, that sort of shows that we're all kind of trapped by this culture, that there's that we're just trapped. We're sort of looking maybe we're on the other side of that chain link fence and we're looking in on this scene, and there's a certain helplessness happening there.
Mm. And then this is your other piece, All Through the Night, She Could Only Weep. And this was also made in 2017, correct?
Right, yes. So this one, the figure in the middle, she's actually from a photograph of a dancer in the movie The Plague. And The Plague was a movie based on the Albert Camus novel, starring William Hurt. And she's a dancer, and William Hurt is a doctor in South America during this horrible plague. And he's working very hard to figure out what's happening and to help people and to find a cure. And he goes to this very fancy dinner, and in the fancy dinner, the entertainment are two dancers, and this woman is one of the dancers, and they're dancing around very beautifully, but there's a certain morose quality to the dance. And then she finally leans back, and the other dancer is holding her, and she looks like she's in anguish. And I liked this image because it was similar to, there's just so much chaos and craziness and violence going on in the world, and then we can sort of compartmentalize ourselves and forget it all and just have our fancy dinners or our meetings or whatever it is. And I just like that image of her, being in anguish, and also of it being in an artistic motif, the dance, sort of coming in on this dinner that's supposed to be very lovely and relaxing and an escape from what's going on in the world. And then again, I just have like the those are policemen. The two policemen, the larger figures are policemen from the 19th century. The other two are current policemen. And again, they're just sort of lurking around. You don't really know what they're aiming at, but they're there, and anything could happen at any time. Yeah. And
I noticed you have a horse in the background again. Is the horse significant for you for a particular reason?
I mean, it's
or just
a certain level of innocence and beauty and victimhood. I mean, really, they're at our, we could do anything to them at any time, and they would have no control over it whatsoever. And I find, that just sort of relates to human victims of gun violence.
Mm. And before we get too deep in conversation and share your studio some more, I am very interested in your process of the nail polishing. One, how much nail polish ink are you using? Because I would assume it's a lot, right?
It is. I totally wiped out $2 stores. So. And I worked on these for like 6 months or so. So I used a lot. I should have saved all of the empty cartridges, but it was actually a certain kind of nail polish. It was the kind that has a very long tip, and it's a very stiff tip, and it's used for detailing on your nail. And I just found it to be, I could make like these little dots, and it just worked really, really well for me in terms of the details. And then it was also a very slow process in terms of doing some of the larger parts of the black, which I really liked as well, because it gave it a certain dimensionality and lushness that I really, really liked. Yeah. And then the background is this inkjet print transfer. So it would print out the image and then basically glue it on and then scratch off the paper. And I needed something that wouldn't scratch off. And nail polish, like, really, it's not going anywhere unless you take it off with acetate. So.
And how did you happen upon or decide to use the nail polish ink?
I had used it in a previous work, and again, I'm always looking for alternative ways to do things, and sometimes like, I didn't want to spend a ton of money. I know that's
you didn't want to get the ultimate black.
I liked the idea of using something from the dollar store. I find stuff at the dollar store like all the time for my artwork. And so that was just one of the materials that I really liked and I wanted to use. So, yeah. That
was, the use of the nail polishing for me was just that, like, what an interesting concept and idea.
I mean, hey, you should try it because it works really, really well. It's cool. Yeah.
So would you like to talk more about the pieces that are behind you as well?
Sure. So after I finished with these guys, I sort of went on, I don't know if you can see, I'm gonna, tell me if you can see this painting. Can you see this one down here?
Yes.
Not really. Okay. Well, it's a painting of the Trader Joe's shooting. I don't know if you remember that. It was a few years back. Yeah. And you can't, it's very abstracted. And I just wanted to sort of forget all the violence and just all the madness. And it just seemed like it was never going away. And nobody was ever doing anything about it. And I just wanted to sort of make a very abstract painting about a very real horrific event. So that's that one. And then I moved into these guys, and again, this is the CNN motif, and it was just like I was watching so much news, and with Trump and everything, I was like becoming obsessed with it. And again, I just wanted to sort of do something that divested myself from all of the horrible news. And I just wanted to make something very abstract because I think I was just getting discouraged, basically. So that's sort of where I am right now with sort of addressing the gun violence.
So how would you say your experiences in outputting artwork, how does it differ with the more abstract work compared to the more figurative work?
Yeah, so I think right now I really enjoy it more because it's so much easier to control, sort of like it's really easy to make a straight line, and it's really easy to pick out certain colors. And I think it's just, for right now, it's just kind of a break from, so it's a very controlled process, and I can come up with the concept, and I can make the lines and the color blocking and what I want to do, and then that's pretty much it. So I think for me right now, it's just a nice way, again, to divest myself from everything that's going on, while also sort of making a comment on everything.
Yeah.
More of a hidden comment, and I think you just have to delve a little bit deeper into the work just to find it, to discover it.
Nice. And I think we all need that a little bit right now, is finding a way to disconnect. It's hard right now. I feel like we're just bombarded 24/7 with either bad news or worse news.
Exactly. It is. It's terrifying. I mean, that's all I can say is it's terrifying. And I think sort of moving away from the figure was, again, or representational work was just sort of a way to move away from that personally, while also having it present.
Yeah. And so I'm definitely interested in talking more about that interconnection, that interconnectedness between our environmental issues and climate change, and how violence is intertwined with that, and our relationships with I guess, capitalism and globalism and how that's affecting this global violence too.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's all interconnected. You know, we're violent to each other and we're violent to our environment, like deeply, deeply violent. There seems to be very little, not all of us obviously, but but from the top, there seems to be very little mutual respect between human beings as well as to the environment. And I don't see a reason for it. I don't understand it. I think it is very, very much interconnected. It's those instincts. And I think that there's a way to turn off those instincts. I really do. Yes, we are technically animals, but and yes, violence can be very instinctual. There's no doubt about it, and it can be taught. But I think as we progress, we really can choose not to be violent, and we can choose love 100%.
And that goes back into that how is it that we a lot of us seem to relate and love and violence in the same breath too.
Right. Well,
whether it's violence towards others to protect loved ones, or growing up in abusive households where there's this cyclical violence, and you grow up believing that love and violence are the same thing.
right, exactly. Yeah, so in this painting you can see, like, here's two people who are sort of embracing each other, and then down here you have two people holding guns. So yeah, I mean, I think people often use love as an excuse to be violent, and which is totally crazy to me. I mean, I can understand the psychology of it, but it's horrible to me. It's pretty awful.
Yeah. And yeah, and you can really see in the series from 2017 that you created, that there is this interconnectedness happening, and like some of it feels reactionary towards one another within the piece too.
Mm-hmm. Yep, definitely. Yeah. So it seems very disparate. You have all these things happening here, but in fact, it's meant to be one happening. It's meant to be one interrelated piece. Yeah.
So, Sue, is there anything else you'd like to discuss with us about current projects? Would you like to further expand on your abstract work or upcoming exhibitions that you have?
I don't have anything coming up right now. I did during the COVID, when it first happened, I turned to just drawing on paper, and I did a lot of nature, sort of nature looking, without necessarily specifically being like, you wouldn't look at it and say, oh, this is a tree, but it has a very natural feel to it, and I did that pretty obsessively for like a couple months. That's all I did, and it was just it was a great way. I don't have anything here, but it was just a great way to, again, divest and just to myself in the moment as all the craziness was happening. So yeah, and I think in my next series I do plan on doing more abstract, and again, like always having that activist mindset, even if it's not representational, even if you can't see, oh, I know what that's about. I think that will always be in my work, no matter what I do, because that's just sort of where I'm coming from, I think.
And have you always created with activism in mind, or did that slowly develop over the years?
No, I always did. And I think when I first started making art, my mindset was, why would you do anything else? I wasn't coming from a place of, I want to make something beautiful. I wasn't coming from a place of I want to make something decorative, which is totally 100% fine. But I think for me, it needed to mean something. It needed to say something. And I think as I've progressed as an artist, that need, although it's not gone away, it's become less important to be obvious about it. And I think I've sort of turned inward a little bit on that. And I have faith and confidence that even though the viewer may not be able to see the meaning, that it's still there. Yeah.
And I mean, at the end of the day, that's, I think that shows as an artist that there's growth and development, that you're caring more about your own practice rather than what's, viewers are taking in necessarily.
Right. And to me, again, I think to be authentic, because I'm always struggling with that too. Like, am I doing this to get into a show? Am I doing this so my husband likes it? You know what I mean? Like, I think there's always that conflict or tension that you have, or at least that I have as an artist, being authentic and true to what I really want to do, while also wanting to please people, wanting people to like what I do. So, but yeah, you got to stay on that path of being authentic. I do.
Do you have any additional thoughts or things you'd like to share, or do you want to?
I don't think so. All I can say is vote, 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 vote. That's it.
I agree.
With art, but like, please vote. If anybody watches this, please vote. That's it.
Oh. So I'd like everyone to thank everyone for joining us with our artist interview with Sue Eldridge Ward. As she stated before, you can see her on her website, or you could see her on arthustle.net, both on the virtual website and at Shishama. You can schedule a tour through our website. We are up through September 19th, and we hope to see you soon. So have a good day. I'd like to thank you, Susan.
Thank you so much, Christy. You've been absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And we will talk to everybody soon. Bye, guys.